Okay, so in order to start our discussion, our little teaching session, if you will, I want to talk about this first. This is going to be the heart, and this is going to be how the message gets sent um, through the heart in order to tell it to contract. So here we're going to get this depolarization method, which is right here. We're going to get this depolarization, influx of sodium. We're going to have a little calcium release, and then we're going to have potassium. And then here, this is where that depolarization is going to come into play. We're going to have our SA node. It's going to sense that, and then it's going to go and push that signal across the atrium. Now, why do we want any contraction at all across the atrium and not just the entire thing? Well, so the heart can passively pass blood from the atrium to the ventricles at 80%. So 80% of all the blood that is up here can go past through to here, through our little gates, no problem. Now, we still need that extra 20% because it's very important that we fill the ventricles up with as much blood so we can get as much blood out as possible in as few pumps as possible. So our SA node here is going to tell the atriums, hey, we got 20% up here, we want it down here. So then once that message is sent across, we finally hit the AV node. Once that contraction happens up here and that 20% is down here, now we want to get 100% out here, out to the rest of the body. So in order to do that, we're going to have our AV node that is going to send the message down the bundle of his, down the bundle branches, and around the Purkinje fibers. So at this point, our heart is like this. We have blood down at the bottom here, and if we squeeze our heart like this, blood is going to push out because of the pressure. So in order to create that pressure and to create that contraction, we got to send that message down and around. And then once it gets down and around, we can then push it like this, and the blood comes up and out. So our next step is going to be talking about how contraction happens in the first place, which is going to be right here, our little goldfish diagram. So basically, think of this as a muscle cell. Think of this area as like open space with tons of stuff that could potentially go down here, but we have calcium. Let's say that this is calcium. Calcium is going to come down here into the T-tubule and get sensed by these little feet, and these little feet are going to tell your SR that we need calcium. We have calcium here, we need calcium in here so that we can, contract. So if the calcium's out here, we want it in here. SR is going to be like, hey, okay, I have calcium, I'm going to push it to the sarcomere. So what the sarcomere does is, that is basically our muscle. Think about it as our muscle. That is how we contract any muscle, no matter what. We need actin and myosin to bind together, and we need them to pull and release. Pull and release. That's how we get contractions. Now, actin and myosin, they can't grab each other and just go willy-nilly without calcium. Because if we were to do that, we'd be constantly contracting, and that would be probably not good. So in order to get that, we have to have troponin, troponin I, troponin C, and troponin T. Troponin I is what's keeping tropomyosin on to actin. Tropomyosin inhibits actin and myosin from binding. So in order to get them to bind, we have to get rid of tropomyosin. So we release that calcium, then binds to troponin C, then troponin I is like, all right, cool, let me get out the way, and then troponin T then is released from tropomyosin, and then we can then bind actin and myosin together. So that binding isn't it. We still need energy, ADP, inorganic phosphate, and ATP. Once we have all those, we can pull it, basically like, think of it as like a rope pull battle. So you pull the rope, and then you release the rope. So pull the rope with ADP, pull it again with PI, and then release it, and that's how we get contractions. Now, when we're done with that calcium, we could just put it back in the SR through CIRCA. So CIRCA is going to be what inhibits us from just continually using calcium. The CIRCA is going to inhibit the calcium from going back and back and back, and then put it back in the SR, where the SR can do it if it senses more calcium. But if we just had calcium out here, it would just keep binding and binding and binding and binding. So CIRCA is going to be what inhibits our contractions from just going over and over and over again. And then here we have our little diagram. Basically, this is a action potential. It's a depolarization. So here we have our little depolarization. This is an influx of sodium. Then here we're gonna have that calcium release. This calcium release right here is the calcium we use over here. So this calcium release is important for our heart to be able to pump, because then it goes here, and then that's how we get to here. So this calcium release is super important, and then we have an outflux of sodium, or not sodium, this is potassium, in order to get our heart or muscle back to its normal state. So the next part of the question is how we're going to discuss heart failure and how imaging could affect our ability to visualize heart failure or any pathology in the heart. And so basically, at this point, we've hit HFrEF and HFpEF. So HFrEF is basically systolic heart failure. So your heart is able to be filled with blood. However, it cannot push blood out effectively. So think about it like, let's say you fill up a water balloon full with water and it explodes on impact. If you fill a balloon up with half the water, it may or may not explode on impact. It may or may not. And the whole point of a water balloon is to explode. We want it to explode on our friends so that like we get them wet and stuff. So like HFrEF is bad because systolically we are not able to push that blood out. Now HFpEF on the other hand is going to be diastolic. HFpEF, our heart isn't able to relax after we've pushed that blood out. So here we were able to fill the blood to its max potential, but we weren't able to push it as effectively as we need to be. Now here, that's the opposite. We can push it out, but there's not much we're working with. We aren't able to refill that blood up as much because our heart isn't relaxing as it should be. So HFpEF is going to be more like that water balloon thing I said, where we can't fill it up all the way and it won't explode on impact. Now this one, HFrEF, is going to be like we're just not able to effectively push out all the stuff that we have. So it's still in there, we just can't push it all the way. Now this one, we have not much in there. We can push it out, but whatever we do have, it's not going to be enough. And as far as imaging goes, we're gonna erase this here and make a little drawing. So we learned a lot about this right here. Oh shit. So this here is going to be what our heart should look like in all steps of the entirety. So here we would have basically the contraction phase. Here we have, oh, sorry, can't you see it? This is going to be our contraction phase. This is how we basically see that the heart is doing what it needs to be doing when it's supposed to be doing it. So when we have ECG, we're going to have 12 leads, and they're all going to look like pictures like this, but they're all going to be slightly different, and they're all going to show us different parts of the heart. So when we have our 12 leads, we have them like up on our top left and top right shoulder, or bottom left leg, bottom right leg, and then we have them around the heart. So what we want is, we want to see all of this. We want to see this. In lead 2, we're going to see mostly this, but end all be all, in all 12 leads, we want to make sure that this is working, this is working, this is working, this is working, this is working. So as far as an ECG goes, that ability to be able to see different parts of the heart, so we're going to be able to see left atrium, right atrium, septum, we're going to be able to see left ventricle, right ventricle. We're going to be able to see everything that we need to see in order to determine that the heart is doing what it needs to be doing. So in order to determine that the heart is doing what it needs to be doing, we need to be able to see it. So to have all 12 of those leads is important because it shows us, okay, let's say this is up and then this is down. So this would be leading to the heart, leading away from the heart. And if we, let's say we don't see this when we should be seeing this, that's going to tell us that, hey, there's a problem with whatever, lead 8. Lead 8, we're not seeing what we need to be seeing. We're not seeing that the signal is being sent down. We're not seeing that the signal is being sent up. We're not seeing that the signal is being sent this way or this way. So with all 12 of those leads, yeah, lead 2 looks like this, but with the other 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, we can see all the different areas of the heart in a 3D shape, basically. So we can see it from all angles. If we can see it from all angles, then we can determine, hey, does this person have HFrEF? Does this person have HFrEF? Is this person contracting here when it should be? Is this person contracting here when it should be? Is this person contracting here at the bottom, up and out? We are able to determine a lot of different pathologies through ECG because we can see it from so many angles. We can see it from the front, the back, the left, the right, the middle, and being able to see it from all those different angles is going to be what helps us to determine if somebody needs further imaging and if they're in trouble for heart failure, other things related to the heart. And yeah, so that is going to be our lesson today, guys.